Okay, we are going to, it's Testament Aleph today, but we're going to start from Ches Amid Beis, the bottom of the Amid, by 4 lines from the bottom of Ches Amid Beis, with Abaya. Amar Abaya. Amar Abaya. Mereish lo yahava Yosef Mar atzipi de Kanishta. Originally, Rabbo would not sit upon the mats belonging to the Beis HaKnesses, the ones that belong to the Beis HaMedrash. Why? Because he didn't want to benefit from stuff that he understood was meant for the public. But Kiv on the Shama once Rabbi heard that he saw a brisa of the Tanya, it says, that the officials have a right to divert the money to whatever they would want. Have a Yosef. Then he would sit upon the mats because it wasn't an issue. He realized that it's not a problem and it's totally valid. Come, you can sit right here. Okay. Oh, wow. You got a Perish Chai. It's good to have over here. Perfect. Okay.
I got the last one.
Oh, wow.
From Kubias.
Yes,
I
bro.
tried several stores and
wow. Okay. Baruch Hashem. Okay. Let's continue. Amar Abaya Mireish Hava Ovid Mar Trei Kisi. Originally, Rabba would make 2 purses for all the donations he used to collect. Chad Laniya Da'ama. 1 purse was to hold the money that we gave to all the Aniyim. Vechad, and the other purse was Laniye de Masa, was only for the poor of the city, like we explained yesterday's daf already, that there are 2 collections. One was for the city, and one was for anybody that needs. You need a Gemara?
Yeah, I think you may need a Gemara.
Okay, sure. Come join.
Okay.
Come, you can sit right over there. Perfect. We are just about to start Testament Aleph. Testament Aleph. Chesam Beis on the bottom.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'll make sure you get it back.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's one Chesam Beis. Chesam Beis, we're talking about the certain practices of what we learned regarding public money. So let's just chazer quickly. Abaya says, Mereish Lavi Yosef Mar Atzipi de Bekanishta. Originally, he would not sit on the mats belonging to the shul because he didn't want to use public funds. But Kivan the Shama Lahad Tanya, once he heard about the brisa that says, Ulashanaisa Chol Mashi Yirtzu Hava Yosef. Once he heard that the brisa, that there's a concept that they could change around, they could use the money for whatever they would like to, and then he felt comfortable sitting on those mats. Another practice the Rabbi had, Amar Abaye Mereish Hava Ovid Mar Trei Kisi. It used to be they would collect one for the Aniyah ear, and then for any Aniyim that went through the ear. So we had 2 separate purses. Chad L'Aniyah Dalma, that was to any Aniyim. The Chad L'Aniyah Damasa, what was specifically for the poor of the city. But Kiv on the Shamalah Damalei Shmuel. Once Rabbi heard that Shmuel told the Rav Tachlifa Barav Dimi. He told him also, Rav Tachlifa also had 2 purses. So Shmuel told him it's not necessary because of this concept that that they have a right. Ovid Chad Kisa. Then he made 1 large purse. 1 Testament off the top of the Amid. The Asni Allah. However, he would stipulate, he would make a Tanai, whoever was giving him money, to tell them that I have a right to change around where the money will go to. Iunami Rabba also made 1 purse of a Chakisa of Asni Allah, and he made this tonight. However, Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi Amar, Ano Asnuye Nami Loitzerichna. I also did 1 purse. However, I never made a Tanai with anybody that's giving us the money. Why? Anybody who's coming to me to drop off money, all the rich people will drop off their maisa. They're coming with a basic understanding that it's up to my discretion who to give out the money. And whoever I wish, I could give it to. Okay, now we are going to talk about incidents where we said yesterday, we learned how Chachamim have a power to make the necessary stuff that would help to benefit the whole entire community. Whether we said yesterday about the prices, the prevailing wages. We mentioned a few stuff that Chachamim have a power, and not only they have a power, they'll give a knas whoever doesn't listen. Now we're going to bring an incident that it wasn't the Rabbanim, Right, it's for shalom for everybody. So Hanu betray Tabchi. There was two butchers. The question is, the Bachtik said that it wasn't specifically two. It was the butcher union, like we said. They had a whole union. The Avdi and Yana Bahadi Adadi. And they stipulated between themselves that what? The Chol Man the Avid B'Yayim the Chavre. It used to be, like we mentioned before this year, we were speaking about it, that there wasn't enough to go around to sell. You only able to sell. There was no refrigeration. You had to sell it within one day. So there wasn't, if there would be competition, there would be leftovers. Therefore, what the union decided is that every day someone else has the right to shecht and sell it. So but they made a deal that if anyone who doesn't listen to this agreement and start shechting on someone else's day, what are they going to do? The Chol Man David B'Yayim the Chavri, Nikru Lemashke. They'll destroy, they'll rip it all up, his hides, basically whatever he benefited. It's basically making him do it that he's not going to want to do it ever again. One smart aleck thought he was desperate for money. He thought he could get away with it. He butchered on his friend's day. What happened? Karul Lamashke, all the other butchers went and destroyed entirely his hides. But this person that got his damages, also committed Rav, he went to take them to Bezdin. You know what happened? Chayevinu Rav l'shalumi. Rav obligated the butchers to pay him back, even though he's basically telling them that you had no right to make this agreement. So Rav Yemer was bothered by this. Rav, what's going on? We have a brisa that clearly states, we learned this yesterday, that we have a power to force a knas to people that if it's for the public benefit. My answer, so lo yahadele Rava. Rava did not even answer back. He let it, basically, he said, whatever he said, and he didn't even bother answering it. And the Gemara explains why was he quiet. Amra Papa. Shapir avad lo yahadele midi. It was good that Rava did not respond to Rav Yemer. Why? Because the brisa that says that you could do these type of deals, that's when there's no Adam Chashuv, there's no God in the city, there's no Rav. That's when the communal, the board and whoever was running it can make tonight. In a place where there is an Adam Chashuv, he's the Rav of the city. The community leaders, what we call them today, have no right to decide to make up laws in the community. We have the Vad, we have a Rav, and that's what we listen to. Now, no one else. Therefore, why was Rav not answering? Because he was in his Hanava, he didn't want to say this point, but we know that was the reason. Okay, now we're going to continue talking about collecting tzedakah. Tanu Rabbanan. Ein mechashvin b'tzedakah im gabei tzedakah. What's the mean mechashvin? We don't reckon. That means to say is we don't mun them. And today, if a person is running a business, any smart business owner is not going to let his business. He's going to have everything where it was all the expenses is on a sheet. He's going to demand from all his employees. He wants a cheshbon to all their expenses. However, gabei tzedakah, we don't demand from them to explain every single expense. Ve'loi behekdash and megizbarim. Same thing with the gizbarim regarding the Beis Hamikdash. We would not force them to explain every expense. There's no clear raya that by gabei tzedakah we're not going to force them to explain every expense. But zeichel adavar, we do have an allusion to such a practice from the Beis Hamikdash. What's it say? Shenemar. It's a pasuk in Melachim. It says, Melachim Beis. It says, "V'lo yechashvus anashim." That we're talking about the treasurers, the gizbarim, that we would not demand from them to explain it. Asher yitnu sakasaf yadam, into the hand to deliver the money. Lasis leisim melacha, for the people that were repairing it. Why keep emunah and they do it with emunah? We don't have to judge them. We don't have to ask. We don't have to ask anything. And again, Rashi explains that it was a contractor it was such a big project. And there was so much stuff going on. There was laborers and there was artisans. There was everything going on. It didn't add up for him to have to stop and really, if he had that pressure of explaining every expense, it would be a little too much for him. Okay. However, the point is it's only zeichel adavar, because there it's clearly Beis Hamikdash. We don't have a clear raya to gabei tzedakah, but we see this concept, hu adin, a person collecting money. Rabbi Lazar recommended a procedure used in the Beis Hamikdash. Amar Lazar, even though a person has a gizba that is trustworthy, Yatzer v'yimne, before he gives it to the gizba, he should still bind and count the money, even though he has no cheshbon of counting afterwards. Shenamar, we see this regarding the base of Mikdash. It says also over there, Malachim base. V'yitzura v'yimnu. We're talking about that the money in the treasure chest was filled. What would happen? You would have a cipher, and the Kohen Gadol, they would count the money, and they would bind it into packages. And then what they do was, they would give this counted money to the treasurers, who were in charge of the workers. However, it's very clearly, we just learned earlier that they're bemune maisim. We don't have to count the money. The afal pikain, the scribe would count the money. So you see this concept in order, they were going to extra madrega that they were not obligated to do. Now the Gemara is going to discuss that when people approach us for money, it's the Taif Shabbos, the Rockland County has very many procedures in order to decide that the person requesting the money is, really should get their money. Amar Avhuna, Baitkin lemizainos. If a pauper approaches you and asks you, I'm hungry, can you please give me food? We investigate if he's really anani. However, vein baitkin lechsos. And the Gemara is going to explain why, that if a person approaches you for clothing, we're going to immediately give him clothing, we're not going to investigate it. We're going to bring a pasuk to show us that this is right, and a svara to show us that we don't check for clothing. Let's just say it's a svara. It's very embarrassing to approach someone and he's not dressed appropriately. Therefore, we immediately give him the clothing, because if he was not truly in need, a person would never do such an extreme action. But you're claiming that you're hungry doesn't really mean too much. There's not too much embarrassment. You could have plenty of food in your kitchen, and there's no way to really see how hungry you are. It's very possible you have plenty of food, and you want to just take advantage of the system. We have a pasuk in Yeshaya that says, halai for rice. So if you look very carefully, it's with a sin. Sin and a shin are interchangeable. It means you could be reading together. L'rav lamecho. We're reading it besinksiv. We're reading faraish with the shin. Now what? Paraish. We're playing on the words. Paraish means to clarify. First, find the parish. Is he really hungry? Then v'hada delay. However, regarding a person that's not dressed, the hasam ksiv, regarding someone who's not wearing proper clothing, it says also in Yeshaya over there, kisira araim, when you see him, v'chisisai, and you clothe him, kisira is la'alter. Immediately, as soon as you see him, you should immediately give him his clothing. However, Rav Yehuda's arguing on Rav Huna, punk fakert. He says exact opposite. Rav Yehuda ama baitkin lechsos vein baitkin lemizainis. Rather, when for mizainis, if a person comes to you, we immediately give him the clothing knot. And Rav Yehuda is going to explain why. Iba sema svara, iba sema kra. The argument is when you're hungry, there's nothing like the pangs of hunger, and therefore we're not going to prolong his suffering. However, the one who's requesting clothing, the one who's requesting clothing is not so, right? He's not feeling any hunger. And again, so they explain in note 18 that we have to use common sense, that we're not talking about someone who's not completely dressed. We're talking about someone who's to a certain degree dressed, but he's not, I would say, properly dressed as a regular person. But it's not, you can't say it's enough tsar, otherwise it doesn't make sense what we're saying, Rav Yehuda. Right? If a person comes to us literally not dressed, then there's no question that it's tsar b'lechaim, they're charetz. We take care of a person. Okay. Rav Yehuda is going to continue with saying the pasuk, Iba Sema Kra. Regarding someone who requests food, he reads it with a samach. If you look inside the pasuk, really in the entire R, it is with a samach. But Rav Huna, he played it in words, he learned it with the shin. Will you not break your bread for the hungry? Parais means la'alta, you immediately break the bread. V'chedekarina, like to read it with the samach. V'hasam, regarding clothing, ksiv kisira. He learns the word not immediately, kisira more as a passive term. Kisera ara mechisisa. It's only when it becomes apparent to you. He learns it more when it's apparent to you that it's clearly that he needs it. That's when you should provide him clothing. And we're going to bring a raya to Rav Yehuda, not to Rav Huna. Tani kavas to Rav Yehudi. If a person who's poor says, Amar Kasuni, please clothe me, give me clothing, bait gen acharav. We investigate him. However, Parnasuni says, please feed me because I'm hungry and bait gen. So it's clear raya to like Rav Yehuda, not like Rav Huna. Okay. Very geshmak machlekes.
means you believe him immediately.
Ein bait means we don't investigate. We immediately give him. Correct. Right. Okay. Now we're going to continue. We're going to go through a little note 24. How much, when a person goes through your village, how much do you feed him? Right? So we have a communal tzedakah. And now we're going to question, pardon?
Right.
Yeah, how much do you feed him? So Tanan Asam is a Mishnah in Peah that says as follows. Ein peichsin la'ani ha'over mimakom l'makom. Means the poor man is going through your village. What do we give him? We have to give him mikikar pidyon. Mikikar, when a loaf of bread is, the cost of a loaf of bread is bepudyon me'arba sa'in besela. The cost when 4 saws of flour cost a selah. So let's jump right into what's going on with these numbers. The bottom, the denominator is going to be what we're trying to pull out on the calculator. It's going to equal 2 meals. That's really the purpose. But how do we evaluate that? How do we evaluate that money? So let's go through note 24. I think it's going to be very beneficial for everyone to really have a deep understanding of what's going on with this money. If a person who is traveling, we're going to read it through the whole, we're going to try to go through the whole note. If a person who is traveling from place to place passes through a community, that community's official charity organization must see to it that he has enough food for the day, which is 2 meals. That's the whole purpose. Thus, he must receive at the very minimum the amount of bread that a pudyon, which is amount of money, which we're going to see how much is, will buy when a seller buys 4 saw of wheat. So if we look at the screen on the stock market and we see clearly that a seller is enough to buy 4 saw, then it's fine. When wheat is at this price, because wheat fluctuates, a pudyon, how much is a pudyon going to buy you? Will buy a loaf of bread containing a quarter of a kav, which is 6 eggs of flour, and it is a loaf of bread this size that a person must be provided with daily. The point is, a person needs a loaf of bread that contains a volume of 6 eggs of flour, 3 eggs per meal, 3 eggs of flour per meal. This is a Rashi in Shabbos that explains this. Now, let's go through the numbers. That a loaf of bread costing a pudyon contains a quarter cup of flour is asserted in the following. How much is a saw? A saw is a unit of volume equals to 6 kav. So 6 kavs equals a saw. We're trying to buy 4 saws. So 4 saws equal 24 kavs. That's what we said. It has to be that a pudyon will buy, when a selah is going to buy 4 saws. So how much is a selah? A selah is a coin equal in value to 24 silver ma'is. And what is 1 ma'ah? Is equal to 2 pudyons. So there are 48 pudyons in a selah. Thus, when 4 sellers, which is 24 kavs of wheat, sell for a selah, which is 48 pidyons, then 2 pidyons, if you break the math, will buy a kav of wheat. And 1 pudyon will buy a half a kav. And what do we need to give? We need to give a quarter of a kav, right? That's what we're saying. So I finished loaf of bread. So here's the punchline. So why do I need, right? Why do I need to give more money? We just said, you should only have to give a quarter of a pidyon. Why do I need to give a half a pidyon? So let's see it. Why do I need to give a full pidyon? Let's see this. So a finished loaf of bread, however, costs twice as much as the wheat content because there's labor involved. Therefore, when a pidyon buys a half kaf of wheat, in reality, you're only able to buy a loaf of bread containing a quarter cup of flour because of the labor involved. So that's we're going to go into. We're going to stick over here. We're going to stop over here. The rest is not Rashi. It's other Rishonim I don't want to get into. Rabbeinu Gershom and the Yad Ramah, other cases. However, the point we're trying to bring out of note 24 is if you break down the numbers, a pudyon is going to equal. You really have to give. When a pudyon buys a half kav of wheat, that's really going to buy the loaf of bread of a quarter of a kav, which is enough to sustain for 2 meals. So that's how much you have to give him. So loaf of bread, so you're basically giving a pudyon, which is 1/48 of a selah. Lun, what happens if he stays overnight? Nice nilai. Parnasas lina. Then we have to give him enough to stay for the night. My parnasas lina. What is that you need to give him if he's staying for the night? Papa purya, a bed. Uveisadya needs a pillow. It's very hard to sleep without a pillow. Shabbos means he's staying for Shabbos. Then noisnin loy mazain shalosh suudais. He has to give him 3 meals. Why 3 meals? So Friday, like we learned, you have to give 2 meals. So he's going to eat half Friday night meal, the other half a Shabbos meal, right? So then he has another left, either for Shal. So he's going to have another left of 1 meal left. What he's going to do with that other meal? He's going to eat for Shal. So that's a half a meal. It might be Shabbos from Lamaka. He's going to eat another half a meal. And then his third final meal, he's going to take it with him when he travels. Like that, he doesn't travel empty-handed. That's a Taisus that explains how we do the meal. Okay. Tana. We have a brisa that says, if a person is knocking door to door, ain't a skuckin light. We do not, once he learns how to collect money, which is a very hard madrig, if you ask people to collect money every day, it breaks you mentally. It's not easy to get trained to start collecting money. But once you learn how to collect money on your own, we don't support you no more. The Gemara is going to say an incident that happened. Now, there was an ani that have a machsel of slachim who was knocking door to door. The asuk made their papa. So he didn't give him any money because we learned in the brisa that you don't have to sustain him. He was coming to a puppet to collect. He wasn't coming to a puppet to collect from the door to door. Rather, he wanted him to give him from the public charity fund, the kupat ear. So he didn't want to give him because the brisa says that if a person is able to knock on door to door, we don't give from the public. So Amalei Rav Sama Berei Derav Yiva Rav Papa. You're a papa. If you're not going to give him money, you know what's going to happen? No one else is going to want to give him money. Why? Because they're going to assume you're a papa. You don't trust him. So I don't either trust him. And therefore he's telling him, Lamos, he's going to die from hunger because no one's going to want to feed him. So Rav Papa attempted to justify. Amar Leva Tanya, what do you mean? It says, we clearly learned this in the Brisa that you don't have to give it him. Amar Le, no, Rav Sam answered told Rav Papa. However, you must feed him something to show when you give $1 even to an ani, you're showing to everyone that you trust him. Therefore, a papa should have gave him a matanim mu'etas. That's what he was demanding from him. Okay, now we're going to talk about the minimum annual tzedakah that every person must give. Now, to clarify, there's a halacha of meiser. But here we're going to go even less than meiser. The absolute minimum that every single person in Klal Yisrael must give to tzedakah. Amar Rav Asi, let's jump right into it. La'olam al yimna adam atzmai milases shlishis hashekel b'shana. A person should never restrain himself from donating to tzedakah. At least the bare minimum is 1/3 of a shekel each and every year. Shenamar, the pasuk says in Nehemiah, Vehemanu aleinu mitzvahs, and we took upon ourselves mitzvahs lasis aleinu shlishis hashekel b'shana la'avodas beis Elokeinu for the Beis Hamikdash. So just like over there, you have it. It's on 9A3, the bottom. I think it's a little more. Chaim, a little more. Yeah, continue going down a little.
9
yes.
lines from the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, there you are. Now you have a Chaim. Okay, so we're bringing, just like we see from the Beis Hamikdash, that a person, they accepted upon themselves to give 1/3 of a shekel, who then we're trying to say if it's stuck. Okay. The Amar Rav Asi, Shkula tzedakah keneged kol mitzvahs. Rav Asi wanted to say that mitzvah giving tzedakah is shakel to all other mitzvahs combined. Shenema, how do we know this? Like we saw in the pasuk, that same pasuk in Nehemiah says, "Ve'emanu aleinu mitzvahs v'gomer." Why does it use a lashon plural? It should say mitzvah. Why mitzvahs? Mitzvah inksiv kan ela mitzvahs to teach us that the mitzvah tzedakah is shakel keneged kol mitzvahs. We are going now in the siman in parentheses on the bottom Testament Aleph. It is 984 in Art Scroll. Siman Gadol Migdash Maiksha. It's a siman for each one. We're going to go through all these statements. Amar Rabbi Lazar. Gadol HaMa'aisa Yaiser Menaiser. The one who causes the performance of a mitzvah is greater than the one who actually performs it. Because we all know it's much harder to start something, to convince a crowd to join something, to, let's say we want to do a new initiative, learning Hilchos Chafetz Chaim, whatever we want to do. It's much harder to get a crowd going, but the person who actually does it, it's much easier. Rabbi Lezer, that's what he's saying. Shenamri brings a rye from this. It says in the pasuk, in Yeshaya, V'haya ma'aseh hatzedakah, and it will be that the act of tzedakah, shalom, will bring peace. The avodas tzedakah, and the work of charity, what will it cause? Hashket uvetach hadaylam. Will cause hashket uvetach means shalva, like bitachon will be security for everybody, will be tranquility. So Rabbi Lazar is pointing out that it says ma'aseh tzedakah. Why does it have to use the word ma'aseh? V'haya ma'aseh tzedakah. It could have easily said v'haya tzedakah, what tzedakah brings. He clearly sees that what? That shalom is better. He's trying to say that shalom is better than hashket uvetach. So then he shows us, Rabbi Lazar is going to add a warning to those who do not get tzedakah. Zacha, if a person, let's say Baruch Hashem, who's very successful in his business. Zacha, haloi frois l'rav lachmecha. You'll break your bread and give it to the aniyim. But lai zacha, you know what's going to happen? V'aniyim merudin tavi bayis. Who is that? That's the Roman government. They always need funds. They're going to come and take away your money. So it's just showing you, they're going to take it to their tzedakah. It's just showing you that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take your money away to tzedakah. If you're Zaycha, you're going to give it to the Yisrael. If you're not Zaycha, you're going to give it to the Goyim. Rava, who's the Rav in Mechuzah, when he was urging his community to give money, he would say, I'm the Rav of Bnei Chuzah. I beg of you, Rabbi say, give tzedakah upon each other, with each other. Like that, the authorities are not going to take away your money. He's basically warning them, you think you're not going to have to give tzedakah, you will. But we're begging you to give it for the community itself. Another statement. Bisman shebeis hamikdash kayim, at the time when there was a beis hamikdash, Adam shekel shekel, a person would donate his shekel for tzedakah, for the karbanis, umeskaperlai, and like that he would have a kapara. Shem beis hamikdash kayim, imaitzin tzedakah, if a person gets tzedakah mutaf, it will be a kapara for him. Just like in the Beis Hamikdash was a kapara, who would then today, v'im lab, b'oinav dekachavim, and nightlam is right, they're going to take him in force. However, he throws in v'afa pikei nechshem letzedakah, it will still be regarded as tzedakah, because like that, at the same time, they're not going to take taxes from the poor, the Meiri explains. So therefore, in a certain degree, it is tzedakah. Like it says in Yeshaya, in like Shaykh, the people that force you, tzedakah. And it shall make a taskmaster still considered tzedakah. Okay. Later. Amar Rava. Rava said, Hi milse shtoile ula. Ula is derived from the word oil, Rashi says. Oil is a kid. Ula mishagesh orchesid ima. That made his mother very debased. He made her very, he was mevazer her. We're going to see in a few moments the incident that happened with his mother, that his mother had to reveal her breast, which is a big bizayin to a mother. We're going to see that story in a moment, that's what she did. So, but they called him, because of this incident, that she did something that wasn't normal behavior. She showed her, she revealed herself to her own son. They called him the person that did that to his mother, Mishagesh Orchaz Edimim Shmei de Belazar. However, he said in the name of Belazar, My Dichsif, why is the pasuk, what is the pasuk in Yeshaya that says, Val Yilbash Tzedakah Kasheryon? So if you look in the Perish Chai, in those days they had a very big iron shield, and the way it was made up with a bunch of buckles. We're going to see it right now how it looked. If I remember correctly, many years ago I saw it. I still think they have a picture of that, of a shiryon. They have it for sure in the picture, Mishnayos. Here we go. Sure, we have it. This is page 44. This is a shiryon. This was a material to go against arrows. They didn't have bullets at those times. So how is it made of? It's made of many, many small little pieces.
So it's like a chain mail.
Right. So it's showing you that what? Why are we comparing tzedakah to such a piece? And that protects. Ma shiryon. Lo malach to tell you. Ma shiryon zeh. Kol klipa mitzterefes l'shirion gadol. Just like how is that protection made of? Small little pieces, but eventually they add up to a very strong protection. Tzedakah kol pruta mitzterefes l'cheshbon gadol. Never think by giving $1 tzedakah. If everyone has the attitude, oh, what's already $5 tzedakah? Never have the attitude. If the whole community at large, all we do is give $5, we can raise millions of dollars together. So too, we're bringing out this point. Okay. Rav Chanina Ma'amahachat says, "Ukeneged idim kol tzidkasenu." And all our acts of charity are like a repulsive garment. That what? That you must remove it. That what? Ma begets that. Just like when how do you look at a garment? Called neem of an neem, it's like a galdo. How is every garment made out of, right? There's the warp, there's the weft, that's the angles it goes in, and basically that's how they make the garment. We learned at the last daf from Baba Kama how they make the garments, but it's all threads by threads, but eventually it turns into beautiful clothing. The same type of concept. Okay. My Carl, and now we're going to go into the incident that I mentioned to you, that he was mevaze his mother, and his mother deviated from normal behavior. Why would Rabba call Rav Sheshes the person that was mevaze his mother, or the beis made her act in an interesting way? So Gemara says this is the incident that happened. Rav Sheshes, it once happened. Rav Ami asked Rav Sheshes a question. We're going to jump, we're going to get sidetracked to bring out this whole mice. We're going to get sidetracked into the hilchos of Mitzayra. Where do we know that a Mitzayra? So let's give Agdama. A person is a Mitzayra. He contracted Nebuch, he contracted Tsaras. Right? We know Tsaras by Miriam. Pasuk it talks about it in Vayikra. That the way Tsaras manifests itself on people, not on clothing, right? But the way it goes on itself is that there's white or light-colored spots on the body. What a kohen does is he looks at those spots, and I'm not going to get sidetracked in it. The exact halach is a mitzayir. If there's lights, if there's hairs, if it turns colors. But the point, we're going to try to take out the basic points of mitzayir. The kohen looks at the spot, and he has to determine if it's saras or not. If he looks at it and he says it's saras, he says mochlot. And then the halach is he's tummy. He has saras. Now, how do you become tar? The spots have to recede. Okay, I told you we're not going to get into the exact guidelines, but there's a few steps to become tar. First, the kohen does an act of 2 birds. He brings it as a carbon. We all know this is called tahiras hatzipar. So you first do that, then you wait 7 days. So what is Doer's Day in 7 days? There's certain restrictions with those 7 days. That's called Shivas HaMispar, Yimei HaMispar. We count those 7 days. After those 7 days, you bring more kabbanas, more stuff we do, and then you're free. So it's a process. So now, he questioned him, Bimei Sipurei. Mei Sipurei is a person who's in his counting days, right? How do we know that a person who's during his counting days, like we said, Shivas Ha, after he gave the carbon tzipar, how do we know he's still, when he touches someone else, he's still considered tummy? The other person is avatama. So Rav Sheshes answered back, since such a person, even though during his Shivas Yimei Mispar, he's Metam B'Gadam, who then is Metam Adam? It's clearly that he's Metam B'Gadam because it says it clearly in the Torah. State in the Torah. Let's look at the pasuk. Let me see in the Torah. It's pasuk Vayikra Yudalid Tess. I'm not sure why the Torah doesn't bring it down. Okay, my Torah doesn't bring it down, but it clearly says in the Torah that after 7 days you must wash your clothing. So just like you're Metam B'Gadim, Metam Adam. Amalei, Dilma, Tuma, B'Chiburim Shani. You know why you're Metam B'Gadim? Because you're holding it. Think about it. Why are we all wearing clothing? It's much more that it's, that's why it's Metam, because it's much more, it's not merely touching it, you're wearing it. And he's going to bring a raya that we see that from Hesed Nevela, someone who moves a carcass of an animal becomes Tamid. The Metam B'Gadim also clearly says in the Torah that after someone who touches a carcass, he has to wash his clothing. And over there, ve'ein mitama adam. So we clearly see a concept. The wearing is much worse. Amalei ve'lasharetz. A person which is searched is much more chamer. There, it's very clearly the mitama adam and all. And how do you know it? That you are mitama adam. La mishum the mitama gadam. So let's learn from there. Just like it's mitama gadam, it's mitama adam. Amalei, no. Sharetz is mefesh in the Torah. The hedik sivbei. It clearly says it in the Torah. It says, "Oy ish," or a man, sheishiyah gabachal sharetz will become tummy. So it's very clearly by sheretz. You don't have a raya that mitzayda that's mitama gadam, that's mitama adam. So you try bringing another source. He says, "Ela shechva zera the mitama adam in all." We all know that a person who's mitzvah shechva zera, he's mitama adam. La mishum da'olam mitama gadam. Mitama adam, it's not for that reason. That's what we're thinking. So Chartzaraya. Amar lei shechva zera nami behedik sibbe. Regarding shechva zera, also clearly says it because it says hi ish in the pasuk, and we all know the rabbi says to tell you someone who's also touching shechva zera becomes tamei. So it's not that you're learning now from Begadim, rather it's a clear pasuk. So there's no raya, we don't have a precedent to tell us that a mitzvah that's mitama Begadim is mitama Adam. So every time, basically this is what was happening. Every time Rav Sheshis, right? Rav Sheshis kept him trying to tell Rav Achdavai raya. So they're having like a back and forth. Every time he tried coming to another place with mitzvah, right? Basically, not to get stuck on the Hilchos Mitzvah. Let's bring out the whole incident. They were arguing, right? They were trying to learn where do we know certain halachas of mitzvah that's mitama adam. And every time Rav Shesha tried bringing him a car to tell us that it's mitama, Rav Achdavui always had a knockout punch, right? To show him that it's not true. So Ahadili, Rav Achdavui made a big mistake. And what did he do? He responded to them each time, like in a funny way, showing him, everything you say, I can knock you out. So Chalish died to Rav Sheshis. Rav Sheshis became very distressed. So Ishtik, Rav Achdavui Baram, he was struck dumb. V'yisyakar Talmudei. Kadosh Baruch Hu punished him, and he forgot all his Torah. Rahman al-Litzlan. Wow. He forgot everything. Okay. Now, just to give a little more clarity, Chas v'shalom for us to think that Rabbi Achdavui was trying to be mevazer of Sheshis. He was more saying how the Torah is so powerful, that type of matter. Chas v'shalom, he wasn't trying to be mevazer him, but Afal Pikein, he was hurt. Sheshis was very hurt, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished him for being hurt. For he got hurt from him. So Sheshis' mother was, she wanted. Rav Sheshis' mother now, because Rav Achdavui forgot his own because of Rav Sheshis, he wanted Rav Sheshis' son to daven to the Rebbeinu Shalom to what? To restore his learning. Now the reason why he did it is because it's not exactly clear. They bring down in the Paiskim, Taisus the Rishonim, but Pashas he did it because in Note 25 they bring it down that he wanted Rav Sheshis didn't want it to be someone whose fellow was punished because of him. So Asya Imei, Rav Shesh's mother went in front of Rav Shesh and begged him, said, please daven to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Rav Shesh did not want to daven. Rav Shesh felt that he was defending the covenant Torah. So Amrle, you know what she did? This is the incident. This is why we're bringing the whole entire Maisa. She did something very, very not normal. Chazi lahani chadoi. She revealed her own breast. The matzis minayu. She literally revealed it. It wasn't that she just pointed it. She revealed it. She said, look at these breasts of mine that you yourself used to be yainik from. So Bayi Rachma Allah, when she saw he did such a drastic action, she davened v'tasim. Because of this Maisa, he was known as the kid that made his mother do interesting stuff. Okay, now we're going to jump right back into it. Now, because we already went through the whole Maisa Mitzvah, the Gemara's Taka going to try to figure out what is Taka the Allah Minol, and where do we Taka know that a person is Metame Adam during his Imei Sipurei. The Gemara answers, Kedetani, we have a price. It clearly says in the Torah, on the seventh day you should count, you should wash your clothing. V'nemer kibas begadim imichalutai, where it talks about a person who's clearly a challah, where there's no argument that you're matami adam. They're also said to wash your clothing. So we make a gzeira shava. Just like by a mukhlat, it's matama adam. Who then by a sipur, it's matama adam. Now we are in note, and we're in Art Scroll 9b3. Chaim, we're going to flip the page now. The top of the Amud, and Amar Rebbe Lazar. We're on top of the Amud, Amar Rebbe Lazar. We're almost done. Almost done the daf. Amar Rebbe Lazar.
On the bottom.
Bottom of the Amud. Actually, not so much on the bottom. Amar Rebbe Lazar. Gadol ha'eset tzedakah. Now we're going to go back into the Agatas. Gadol ha'eset tzedakah b'seiser yaisem Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? Deal of Moshe Rabbeinu ksif. What does it say regarding Moshe Rabbeinu? Where he's talking about the Chet HaEgel, and he's trying to tell the Rebbeinu Shalom. He was telling Rebbeinu Shalom, Ki Yagarti Mipnei Afa Chema. Even after the Moshe Rabbeinu was basically begging the Rebbeinu Shalom to save the Yidden, he was still afraid of these malachim. Who are these malachim? I was in dread of the anger and the chema. These are malachim that punish the sinners. Rashi says, okay. Well, however, regarding tzedakah, what does it say? V'ilabay said tzedakah ksiv. It says a matan b'seiser, a person who gives seiser, yich ba'af v'sheiche b'cheik chema aza. A gift, when someone does it, is going to calm everything down and pacify the strong chema. So you clearly see that what Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid of, someone who's done tzedakah b'seiser, accomplishes that, and it calms those malachim down. So you see, in a sense, that someone who gives money b'seiser, in a sense, he's greater than Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, plig Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yitzchak, af koifa. Someone who gives tzedakah, not only is also going to pacify anger, but chema, which is much more stronger, ein koifa. Shenamar, it says, v'sheichet b'cheik chema aza. Even though you give a present in the basra, it's still going to be strong chema. Afa pisha sheichet b'cheik. Even though charity was given b'cheik, which is in secret, chema aza. The Rebbeinu Shalom's chema is still strong. So according to Rabbi Yitzchak, it could do the anger, but it can't do the wrath. Another version is, Rabbi Yitzchak called dayon. Shenoitel sheichad, ayayay, someone a dayon who takes sheichad, maybe chaimach, azal oilam, shenamar says, v'sheichad, someone takes sheichad b'cheik. So this is not talking about, it's not talking about the effects of charity, rather it's talking about the effects of someone who takes bribes. Okay, now we're going to continue into tzedakah. I got a little. Someone who gives a pruta, small copper coin to ani, misbrach b'sheish brachis. If you comfort him also with words, you give him a smile, and you help him out with dvarim, misbarach v'achase brachis, then he has no money to give. Person approaches you, has no money to give. However, you could comfort him. Such a person will get 11 brachas, and adarab, if you have money to give, you'll get 11 plus 6, you'll get 17 brachas. The Gemara talks about it. Nice and prutalani was brachas sheish brachas. The Chesed says, "How life we're going through it. How life fries lach mecha b'gaimer. Bani emurudim tabi ba'is kisir arim." Where it talks about these are all 6 blessings. If you look in the back goes through all the psukim that clearly says all these psukim. We're not going to go into that. There are 6 brachas. However, like it says the pasuk in Yeshaya, v'safik l'roiv nafshecha. You draw from your soul. And you satisfy that what? You satisfy with words. That what? The next pasuk continues, it talks about Hashem Tamid, Hashem, God, you continually and satisfy your soul, even in times where there's a draw at the gaimer. And there's more psukim, through your good deeds, you'll rebuild the charva, maizde darvidar, to kaimim, you'll raise up the foundation of many generations. Because all these are psukim that even though the Gemara didn't go through the psukim, however, there are many psukim. You can see Rashi talks about all these other psukim. We're not going to get into. Okay. What is the pasuk in? Where is this pasuk? In Mishlei. It says, someone who runs after money, he's going to get life. We'll find life. You don't get honor of a gamish of the right of tzedakah, because one who pursues charity, you'll find charity. It's a question. Mishum the right that stuck yim tzedakah. Someone who gives tzedakah will end up needing tzedakah. It doesn't make sense. Basically, he's going to get a lot of Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to reward him. Let's do a little more. He provides in last line tzedakah to give tzedakah to the right people. He gets much more schar. What's it coming to exclude? The Darish Rabbah. What's it say in the pasuk in Yirmiyah, where the prophet's cursing the men of Ananas who wanted to kill him? Let them be made a stone before you base during the times that he's gonna, the time of anger, that the punishment should be even more severe. I mean, even when those Taishvim try to subdue the Yitzhara, and they want to suddenly act nicely, will stumble upon them people that are not worthy, nor they shouldn't get sachar. Like that, they won't get any reward. So you clearly see that what? That just like the Taishva and Nanais, there they weren't rewarded. So to a person who does look for a person to get tzedakah will get fully rewarded. Okay, tomorrow, Yetz Hashem, we're going to continue Yud Amud Aleph. Thank you, everybody.